special assessment, right?
Maureen, you hear that? Where you're on mute. Yes, thank you for that, Tony. Good to know on that we are at maximum size. We do have $340,000 budgeted for modernization of the elevator and $30,900, which I started the top financial discussion relative to that. And I believe overall we had a resolution where we pulled both SERS and non-SERS together. And in the accounts, we have $500,000, right? We, of course, do not want to spend all that $500,000 on these items, because if we spend it, then we are spending, like I said, that money was budgeted for modernization, not repairs, right? So we're still left with the challenge of how do we modernize those elevators? How do we put steel girders in there? How do we make sure that we've got, the right tabs in there, that if we need a whole new elevator, what does modernization look like? And are we moving forward towards that modernization rather than band-aiding a problem? So to answer your question, we had it budgeted. We have the money in there.
Okay.
We don't have any choice but to move forward with the violation repairs, right? We believe we have negotiated as best we can with the right vendors to get those violations repaired.
Okay.
And I hear your concern. Yes.
Okay, you answered it. You have the money basically
Also,
within all the different reserve accounts. That's basically what you're telling me, right, Maureen? It's okay.
that is, yes, that is correct.
Got
I'm
it.
looking at the total SERS, non-SERS, $498,868, right? And then we're this year alone, based upon our budget, we had $315,000 that's going to be added to those reserves, right?
Yep.
So yes, we do have the money, Tony.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other
Also, just to
questions?
let everybody know, we did get a quote for Maureen, I was just telling everyone, we did get a quote for the Avon modernization instead, just to compare, because we're spending that much money on a CAD. Maybe we could see what it is for it was 108,000. Slightly different than.
Yeah, we need to do a full review of the elevators before we start swapping things out. But what I do want to know about that Avon elevator is if it is truly hanging on to termite-infested 2x4s, do we have a safety issue there? That needs to be researched, and that answer needs to be question needs to be answered. And then
We need to do this fairly quickly, I believe, too.
Yeah, I want to understand that a little bit more, and maybe when you get that other quote, we can compare apples to apples. We'll have information to be able to proceed. Any other discussions on the elevator repairs? Okay, let's move on to the Heather Building electrical panel. So little backstory on this electrical panel. We had internet outages over there. The internet device is plugged into a box. Did you hear that, Yvonne? Seems we lost the internet connection, Tony.
Looks like she's back on.
Hey, I thought we were there. Yes, have you started the recording?
For a minute.
Have you started?
Going. Okay. Yeah.
You said it was stopped.
Stop.
Okay.
Oh,
All right. So
Recording in progress.
Okay, I just got the notice that it is in progress, and we're good to go. All right, so continuing on, a little backstory on the Heather Building electrical panel. We had an internet outage over in the Heather Building, and the device that hooks up the DirecTV is powered by an outlet that's in a utility box on the eastern side of the Heather Building, southeastern side. That outlet is wired by the panel that is in unit Heather 108. The electrician came out and he worked on that. And there were some wire nuts that needed to be tightened up. That outlet also powers an automated sprinkler system, which is no longer being used. But nevertheless, they resolved the wire nuts and they restored the power to those devices. During that investigation, Frank and I went into the
Recording
the-
stopped.
Stopped again.
I already took my 2 shots of Crown Royal, so. I think I may go get myself some more. What do you think?
Yeah.
You on, Maureen?
Yes, so we're back and recording?
Yeah.
Okay, so the gentleman
I don't know what
that
happened.
the gentleman that repaired the outlet identified that the panel is original, it's outdated. He said it really needs to be updated. and
Recording in
replaced.
progress.
I went over there, Frank and I went into the panel room. I flipped the breaker on the house. There are nine meters in that meter room. One is for the header house. I flipped that off, turned it back on. Frank went to go get his iPad. When he came back, I heard an arcing noise, and I reported this at the last board meeting. This is not new information. So there was a concern that there may be a fire hazard on that electrical panel. So Yvonne asked for a quote from the company that came out and did the circuit. They said it's, was it $1,600, Yvonne?
I did not get it. No, I did not get a quote for that.
Was this just for
You
the
come in-
assessment fee?
The assessment,
Yes.
the assessment to figure out how much it would be and what's wrong with it is $1,280. It's an
That's what I-
all-day
yes.
assessment. It takes them all day.
That's what I
So
was
it's
asking. So,
$1,280 for that. Oh, yes.
So-
It comes with, it includes the full-day site inspection, physical audit, existing electrical service, includes removal of covers to verify conductor size, configuration, utility and regulatory coordination, engineering, data compliance, safety compliance review. It's huge. And they have to do that before they give you an estimate.
Okay, if I add something there
So-
too. We got down here on the 16th of December, and we had no power. So when it opened up, I went in and checked the fuse box and see if it had tripped. It had tripped. Jeff upstairs came down and said that we had no internet and that they're leaking off and on. So the power came back on, and he had taken and called the cable company because he had no cable. They took and came out and then told him that there's nothing they could do until we get the electrical fixed. So that all happened. That night at 8:30, Florida Power and Light came out, went in the breaker room where the fuse box is, looked around, took some pictures, went to the truck and handed me the card with the violation. And he said, this thing needs to be replaced. It's outdated. You only have 12 inches, 1 foot from the front of the panel, which is 2 feet, to the wall. You need 3 feet, and it's outdated. You need to get this replaced. That's when we started the people coming out and doing bids on it. I sent them. That's
And
where we're at.
we had 4 electrical companies come out to give bids. They said they were going to give bids. Nothing. I received
Okay,
nothing. The only
okay,
thing
so
I
that's-
got was, right.
I got all that. Let me proceed. All that
Yeah.
information is all true, right? So the guy
I'm
that
just letting
so-
all of our residents know.
okay, so the outlet was resolved, right? The wire nut issue and the internet was resolved. That device is powered up, and everything that Frank was saying about that unit is true. I personally heard the arcing. I'm very concerned about that meter unit, right? So we have moved forward. Yvonne is scheduling the company that came out to fix the outlet to come in and do the assessment to determine what is wrong with that. They're also going to do a surge test to make sure that we're not experiencing power surges. As you all know, if you put something in 1967 or 73, I can't remember the dates, and then you upgrade your solar panels, you remodel your homes, you put a 400 amp meter box or power panel in your unit, you get AC units, you're drawing more power than what was originally designed. So the process is to come
Yes,
in and
you have to do a
evaluate.
load test.
So the process is to
Hold a
come in
load
and,
test. Right.
and evaluate everything that was put in that proposal. I asked Yvonne to make sure that that proposal includes a load test. I then called Don Arpin, who did our 50-year inspection, to ask him for an electrical engineer, because the one step after you get done doing the test to identify whether or not you have failures and breakers that are breaking and fire hazards, you know, if it's really that much of a fire hazard, they'll shut it down, right? They'll shut it down and condemn the unit until you can fix it and write a report from the county and FPL that you have an issue, right? We're not at that point yet. We haven't gotten the evaluation yet. They're scheduling now. So with Don Arpin, he has another gentleman so that we could get another opinion to figure out whether or not how much it's going to cost, right? So the first step is to get it engineered so you can get blueprints from the county so that you understand you have got a common blueprint and electrical engineered designed solution for the power coming into that other building. Once we get that engineered solution, then we put it out to electrical engineers for them to give us bids. So everybody is giving us bids on the same thing. So first step is to get the evaluation of how many amps are coming in, what does it look like, what are they designing to, right? And once they do that.
So do we need to approve this $1,200 thing here? Is that what we need to
No.
do?
We've already approved that.
Okay, we approved that.
I've already called them. I'm waiting for them to get back to me with the schedule.
All right.
Yeah, but the point here, sorry, Dennis, the point here is the original company that we talked to said that the rough order of magnitude for something very similar was $86,000. And if you remember at the top of this meeting, I said that our electrical repairs systems that we had budgeted in our surge was $10,300. Okay, so we as a board need to be prepared when we get these bids in. The rough order magnitude is $86,000. How are we going to fund that? So we need to prepare ourselves to either take the money out of the reserves, draw it down, and then reassess it during the budget period next year, or special assess for whatever the bid comes in. So the point of this is to brief you all on the situation that's going on and to position us to be able to prioritize the appropriate spending of that, what, $400,000 or $500,000 that's sitting in reserves, right? The question really is, how do you fund it? It's not a question as to whether or not it needs to be done. The question is, when does it need to be done, and how are we going to fund it? So I don't have any motions at this point. I feel like we need more information. Frank, you're raising your hand, I think.
No, I'm just sitting here listening. Just, all I know is that the summer's coming. It's going to be hot. I'm not going to be able, I can't turn off the air conditioning. That's going to put a load on it. Since we've been here, we haven't had the air on at all. I mean, we're using minimum.
When they do the load test, Frank, yeah, when they do the load test, we're going to get answers to all those questions. So this
Do we have any idea
$1,200.
when that's going to happen?
I'm waiting for them to get back to me with their schedule. So I'm
And
waiting
then,
for
Okay.
hopefully Don Arpin's electrical engineer will give us another opinion on, the urgency and whether or not we have any options here. The other thing I want to point out is, you don't want to give the keys to the kids with the candy jar, right? The guy that's giving us the bid is going to gain everything by doing the work, right? So, Yvonne, did you want to talk about how you're going to try to ensure that we get an honest opinion on what needs to be done?
We do. I'm waiting to hear back from a couple of electrical engineers that are going to oversee their assessment to make sure that what they're doing is correct, because it looks like it's going to be very difficult to get a second quote. So,
And I also
How
want
much
to
are they
point out,
charging?
I don't know. I'm waiting to hear.
so I also want to point out
What, Maureen?
that I also want to point out that I reached out to Abe, the gentleman that did our structural integrity reserve study, he is a structural engineer, and asked him for his opinion. And what he told me was 70%, 70 to 90% of the South Florida condominium associations are dealing with outdated, grandfathered in, out of code electrical panels. And so this is not something new that he deals with. But at the same time, if you go to an insurance company and they know that you've got panels that are original and they have fire risks, then you have a problem. So it's absolutely imperative for us to get experts to look at this situation, to really find out and identify the risk. To Frank's point, when the summer comes and everybody's got their AC units on, do we have an issue? The other thing that I wanted to point out was, I don't remember the unit number, I think it's H108, has an electrical vehicle station that, according to the paperwork, is intended to be served only by that panel for that unit. So if the original design for the building was to allow 400 amps going into each unit, and he needs 200 amps to power his electric vehicle, that only leaves him 200 amps to serve everything else in his property. My understanding is, based on the documentation, if in fact he is drawing power away from the other units within Heather, that is a violation of the agreement, and it's up to him to resolve that issue. So that is going to go into the assessment and the study that is being conducted relative to this replacement of the Heather panel. And I honestly, I haven't looked at any of the other electric panels in any of the other buildings, but I've learned more than I ever wanted to know. And for those of you don't know, I used to date a master electrician, so I understand a little bit about what I'm talking about. So anyway, it's just really information.
We should continue moving on.
Unless there's any more discussion or anything that we want Yvonne to consider as she's going forward with getting the bids. We understand the urgency and the criticality, and that is the highest priority that she's working on right now.
Anybody else move on? Okay, Heather Roof.
All right, the Heather Roof. Frank has done a great job of getting quotes from 2 vendors. And again, I want to remind you that what we had budgeted for the Heather Roof was $82,400. The 2 quotes that we got, one was from Advanced, which I think is Frank's preference, was $112,485. He did a great job of getting them to bring that down. It was much higher than that before he started. And then the other one is $133,000. I have asked for SK Roofing to provide a quote. They're the ones that have done the maintenance on that. And I've also started taking a look at the details in the quotes to make sure they're apples and apples. I'm not 100% convinced that they are the same from a quoting perspective. Again, that's what I like to do, right? What are we putting a bid out for, and make sure that everybody's bidding on the same thing. One of the concerns that I have in the bids that we have received, and I shared this information with Frank already, is that if the roof over in Heather is original, and all of the subflooring or not 2x4s, what do you call those panels? Yeah. The decking, yeah. Assuming the decking needs to be replaced, I'd like to see a worst case quote on replacing all of the decking and the square footage. They have it estimated at $125 per 4x8. I think we need to get the worst case so that we understand how we're going to fund this thing. And again, just make sure we have all the facts before we proceed. So the path forward from what I see, yes?
This morning you asked me if that included the gutters, because they told me that
Yes.
the gutters were too low, and that
Yes.
is included in their bid.
Okay, the other question
Yes.
the other question I had, Frank, was the patios that are over there, the roofs that are on those patios. Do these bids include the rubberized decking on top of those,
I don't know if that's
sunrooms?
for each.
Sunrooms. Okay.
No,
I'd like to-
I don't think that's in.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that?
We're just talking about the concrete roof to be replaced. That's what we were looking at, and that, and the
Okay.
gutters.
Okay, all right, so that.
The patio buildings are structured